in a recent bombshell report, the House Oversight Committee has released Epstein photos that show Donald Trump, Bill Gates, Steve Bannon, Noam Chomsky. Oh my gosh, you guys, like we really need to see this. And I'm telling you, this is one of the reasons why Donald Trump did not want those Epstein files released. There are even photos that show Donald Trump with Epstein victims. So let's go ahead and get into all of this, guys. This news broke on Friday. Want to go ahead and get started with this clip here.
Hello, it's 10 Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific. I'm Ana Cabrera reporting from New York. We begin with this breaking news. A new look at Jeffrey Epstein's circle. Just now, Democrats on the House Oversight Committee releasing a trove of new photos they received from the Epstein estate. The photos show the powerful men who moved in Epstein's orbit, including a photo of President Trump with unidentified women, and others featuring former President Bill Clinton, Bill Gates, and Steve Bannon, along with Woody Allen, among others. House Oversight Democrats provided very limited information on the situation surrounding these photos or when they were even taken, and none of the images are evidence of wrongdoing. Let's go right to MS Now senior Capitol Hill reporter Ali Vitale, our Justice and Intelligence reporter Ken Delanian, senior legal reporter Lisa Rubin, and former federal prosecutor Barrett Berger. Ali,
let me just chime in here for just a second. No, these photos do not show wrongdoing. However, it's important to note that these are just the ones that they can show you. And I'll show you a video after this that does have confirmation from one of the House representatives who said that these are some of the ones that we can show you. Some of the images that we saw are disgusting and disturbing, and we cannot show you. So everyone needs to keep that in mind. Let's continue on here.
What more can you tell us about what's in this release and how Democrats receive them?
What we're talking about here, Anna, is 19 images out of a batch of 95,000 that the Epstein estate provided to the House Oversight Committee. These images, as we're going through and reviewing them in real time, include photographs that show, for example, President Donald Trump flanked by multiple women who have had their faces blurred to protect their privacy. We also see a picture signed by former President Bill Clinton with Ghislaine Maxwell, Epstein's co-conspirator, as well as other powerful figures from Woody Allen to Steve Bannon, a close Trump ally who was previously a Wall Street executive. It's just an example of people who we're seeing in this new drop. But again, it is a drop in the bucket in terms of what the committee is currently going through. Now,
let's pause here for a second because there's something about this picture that I do want to point out. In this picture, you'll notice that Epstein here, I don't know if this is, it looks like coffee or something that they're having. And that's Woody Allen. And of course, this woman's face has been blurred out here to protect them. This just goes to show you, ladies and gentlemen, the type of company that entangled with Jeffrey Epstein. Woody Allen, who we know went on to marry his adoptive daughter that he had with Mia Farrow. She was underage. He was dating her when she was not legal. And you see Woody Allen here with Jeffrey Epstein. So to me, I'm not surprised to see him. But it just, again, it goes to show you the type of people that entangled themselves with Jeffrey Epstein. Rich people, powerful people, but also people that seem to have no problem with these women being underage. And who knows how far this really goes.
My understanding, according to my sources that I've been talking to this morning, is that the committee got this new batch of documents this week, again, pursuant to a subpoena from the estate, and they are going through these in real time. What we're lacking here, Anna, is any context on when these photos were taken or what the conversations were around them, because these images stem from photos that were in Epstein's emails or in his computers.
That is Donald Trump there on a jet. Again, notice that they're protecting the women's face, that they're protecting the women here, protecting their identity. This picture, which they kind of moved a little quickly on, this is Steve Bannon with Jeffrey Epstein. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, Steve Bannon with Epstein. So you see all these people run in the same circle. Steve Bannon, Donald Trump, Epstein, the list goes on and on. But what was Steve Bannon doing there? And this is why I say the Epstein issue is bipartisan. What I appreciate about these photos that were leaked is that they're not just making this a one party issue, right? Like they could have just said, we're going to show the photos of just Donald Trump, right? But they're not just doing that. They released photos of Bill Clinton, Woody Allen, Donald Trump, of course, and Steve Bannon, Richard Branson, which we'll get into as well. Also, the Bronfman family. I'm going to tell you a little bit about them. But the Epstein situation is bipartisan. And this is what I've been saying since day one, right? So Steve Bannon hanging out with Jeffrey Epstein as well. Let's go ahead and fast forward here.
Those were things that the subpoena directly asked for. It was specifically asking for all videos and still photographs from the Epstein estate. So for Lisa Rubin, it's a question of going through what that subpoena might encompass. And then for us on the Hill, asking if the committee is going to amend or issue a new subpoena to try to get some of the email context around.
Get some of the email context. Here's a picture of Woody Allen with Jeffrey Epstein again. And obviously, as if you look at this picture, you can tell that Woody Allen is filming a movie or a TV show, but he's working, he's filming. So let me ask you a question. Why is Jeffrey Epstein on the set of a Woody Allen production? Why is he there? Because I think more and more information is going to come out, people. I think more is going to come out. Maybe we'll find out if some people in Hollywood may have been trafficked as well. We don't know. But why was he there on the set of a movie? Jeffrey Epstein isn't in his films. So why is he there? Ay, guys.
Around these photos, because again, we don't know when they were sent, to whom they were sent, or even what was said about them. But that is the open question as we get, again, a better glimpse into Epstein's inner social circle. And
that was also Steve Bannon again, but with Woody Allen. So again, Woody Allen, and I'm sorry to keep stopping, guys, but I just want to make sure you see all of this. Woody Allen was a known predator, known predator. And there's Steve Bannon with Woody Allen. Not Mr. Family Values. I've been telling you guys.
Social circle and some of the powerful people through which he aligned himself. We expect more, of course, because there's 95,000 of these documents, but we expect to see the Oversight Committee ranking member, that's Robert Garcia on the Democratic side, come out at some point during this vote series because the House, of course, is in session. And that is the next question that I and I think others will ask, which is we see this now, but what's still coming?
Yeah. Stay with me here, Allie, as we continue to delve through these pictures. Lisa, what stands out to you based on what you're looking at so far?
Well, so there are a couple of things that stand out to me. Obviously, this is a very small subset of the 95,000 images that we understand that the committee is now in possession of. But one thing that stands out to me is the people whose faces are not redacted as compared with images where we can see that the women have faces that are redacted or blurred out. That suggests to me that either the estate and or the committee believe that some of these women are either minors and or survivors of Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, because there are other images, for example, including an image with Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, Bill Clinton, and an unidentified couple where both the man and the other woman's faces are fully visible. That means that they know who that person is in all likelihood, and that person is not someone they believe to be a survivor. On the other hand, then we see that picture with President Trump and those 6 women. That's not to say President Trump is complicit in any wrongdoing, right, but it may be that he was photographed with people that they believe to have been trafficked or abused by Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. Of course,
Right. So any of these women in these photos could have been survivors, or they were underage at the time. And that's why you're not seeing their faces. So that's important to note.
Other thing that stands out to me, I just want to level set for our audience. When the committee issued the subpoena in the first place, it was because they came to understand that there was a birthday book, right? It was based on the Wall Street Journal's reporting over the summer. Once they understood that the estate was in possession of that birthday book, they crafted a subpoena. And the subpoena did not ask carte blanche for every piece of paper that the estate had that could possibly relate to abuse or trafficking by Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. There are very specific requests for certain types of documents. And then, as Ali just mentioned, there is a request for photographs and videos that are reflective of Jeffrey Epstein's properties that he either owned or operated, mostly his homes. And of course, we're now seeing some images that appear to be taken on private airplanes as well.
Yep.
But will they go back to the well? Will they ask for more now that their appetite has been whetted? I think that's totally possible. And it's a nice contrast with what they've asked for the Department of Justice, both in their subpoena to DOJ, but also in the Epstein Files Transparency Act, where they are calling for the Department of Justice to produce a much, much broader universe of everything in their possession that could relate to their prior investigations of Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, of course, with some exceptions for victim privacy and personally identifiable information. But the request to the estate, by contrast, are far more limited, and therefore what we can glean from it may also be more limited.
This was a huge dump of photos that we're just getting into. I mean, some 95,000 photos were reportedly turned over to the committee in recent days, Ken. And as we share some of those that we're seeing already, Lisa noted that the faces that are blacked out were done so by the Democrats on the Oversight Committee. The men in these pictures are high-powered, certainly very recognizable faces for a lot of our viewers. Most have acknowledged relationships with Epstein, but have denied anything inappropriate or criminal. And we should note that nothing that we've seen in these photos further any claims or evidence of wrongdoing at this point. What are we hearing so far in reaction from these men, Ken? And if not today, what have they said in the past?
Yeah, I'm not aware that they've reacted yet to the publication of these photos, but you just made the really important point. Look, we're seeing obviously very recognizable people here. There's Woody Allen, Steve Bannon. There are photos of Prince Andrew, Bill Clinton, Alan Dershowitz, who is a lawyer for Jeffrey Epstein. All of these men, well, first of all, we should be very upfront with the viewers. These photos so far it's not revealing anything new. We've long known that these men have had relationships with Epstein. They've all acknowledged that. And they've also said, as you pointed out, that they did nothing wrong, that they were not aware of his trafficking of young women. And I think it's also important to point out that, the Democrats are releasing these now. The Democrats and the Republicans could have pressed the Biden Justice Department to release Epstein files. They could have issued the subpoena a long time ago. They didn't. And the Democrats are doing this now because they sense that putting this information out puts pressure on Donald Trump, that this is a problem for Donald Trump, this story. And they're doing it in part for political reasons. Not that there's necessarily anything wrong with that, but that's just the world that we live in.
Remember,
this is basically payback, right? Like, this is the Democratic Party saying, okay, Trump, we're gonna get you, we're gonna get back at you. And a big part of that is because, remember, like, this is what I was saying about the tit for tat thing, where it's like one administration says, I'm gonna, do this action to get back at this group. And another administration does the same thing when they get into power. So there's a lot of that. However, at the end of the day, this is a direct failure of the Trump administration, because Donald Trump walking away from this, Pam Bondi saying, we've seen these videos, we're going to release those files, and then walking it back. Donald Trump saying there's nothing to see here, and then walking it back. And then obviously there are things that should be seen there, right? So it made you look even more suspicious. And then on top of that, like I said, these are just some of the photos. They're not releasing all of them. And then on top of that, it makes you look even worse when you're in some of these pictures. And of course, Donald Trump is not alone. But the point is, he was the one who said, nope, nope, nope. There's nothing to see here, folks. Nothing to see here at all. Well, there is a lot to see. And I have other photos that I want to show you as well. But first and foremost, let's go to Representative Garcia. And I want you to hear what he said about the other photos that are not released. So let's get into this conversation here with Representative Garcia.
I think, again, these pictures, some of these photos are really disturbing. And I know we've put some out today. There are many others. And some of the other photos that we did not put out today are incredibly disturbing. Well, I think, again, these pictures.
Everybody heard that? Incredibly disturbing. So you're not going to see all of the photos, but some of them he can't even show you because they are so disturbing. I'm going to show you one in particular that I thought was very interesting. Newly released photo of Jeffrey Epstein showed him meeting with Steve Bannon with what appears to be a trafficking victim's photo sitting on Epstein's desk. So this picture, it says Jeffrey Epstein did take photos of victims. These were viewed by many as trophies or form of leverage. Bannon had been advising Epstein on how to rehabilitate his public image. So again, this is what I was saying before about the hypocrisy, right? This party of values. We care about the children. We care about the family structure and the family unit. And here's Steve Bannon. And I'm going to go ahead and tell you, folks, when you look at this picture, there's Steve Bannon sitting across the desk from Jeffrey Epstein. On his desk, right over here, there's a close-up of this picture here. The woman's face is obviously redacted. Is that a victim? There's a woman right here wearing a white, looks like a white t-shirt. The face is redacted. Looks like she's passed out. So, and again, why was Steve Bannon trying to really rehabilitate Jeffrey Epstein's image? There's more. I mean, it's just does not stop there. Like I said, they didn't show you some of the ones I'm going to show you here in that video. Derek Bro says new pics released with the House from the House Oversight Committee. Let's see who's in these pictures here. So this is the one they're showing a lot, of course, Donald Trump, with who could be victims or they were underage. And that's why their faces are redacted there, right? Here's Bill Clinton with Ghislaine Maxwell, Jeffrey Epstein here. There's Bill. Let's go back. And that's a younger picture of Bill Clinton too. Let's go back here. Of course, this one with Donald Trump looks like he's on that jet with a woman who is also redacted. Here is Bill Gates with Prince Andrew looking at each other as if they know they're up to something or doing something wrong. I mean, it's just, again, one big circle. So they all know each other. They all know like who was there, who was a part of, Epstein's entourage or whatever. And that's why none of them wanted to talk about this. None of them wanted to talk about it. Don't forget what Melinda Gates told you after she met Jeffrey Epstein. She said that he made her feel very uncomfortable and she did not want to be around him. So that tells you everything you need to know. Bill continued to hang out with Jeffrey Epstein. Here's another one here. You know who this is, holding up a book says filthy rich. Let's go to another one. Oh yeah, we saw the one here, but Van Lathan said, which Woody Allen movie do we think Epstein is co-directing here? Yeah, it's like, that's what I'm saying. Like, why is he there on the set? And then there are a couple others I want to show you as well, because let me just pull this up here. There's a lot of pictures, ladies and gents. Here's one on the Lolita Express. Look at this. Concerned citizen shared this. Nothing to see here, just psychopath Bill Gates pictured on Jeffrey Epstein's private jet, the Lolita Express. It's claimed Bill Gates visited Jeffrey Epstein's island around 36 different times. And here's the picture here. So, wow. And again, you can see it says right here, House Oversight in the bottom right-hand corner. So these are the ones. Actually, that's Larry Summers. Sorry about that, guys. Larry Summers and his wife. Bill Gates was already there. So that's Larry Summers. I was about to say. So Larry Summers and his wife. And here's the picture. Pull this up here. Jeffrey Epstein, Bill Gates there. I mean, it's just bad, guys. It's bad. Let me go to, we're going to bring up another picture here. This one I need to talk about. Hold on to your seats. Trump with Ghislaine dad, with her dad, and what's his name? Let's look at this picture very closely, ladies and gentlemen. This is young Donald Trump. This isn't Donald Trump during his presidential years. This is him. This looks like this might be back in the 80s or early 90s. This is Ghislaine's Maxwell dad here with the blue bow tie. And this guy right over here in the right-hand corner, guess who that is? That's Mike Wallace. News reporter Mike Wallace. Now, Mike could have just been there reporting a story. I don't know. But what this shows you is that Donald Trump's relationship with Ghislaine Maxwell and her family goes way back. Way back. Donald Trump looks very young in this photo, you guys. That's what I was saying. Like, this has got to be, let me see if someone put a comment here. Is that Time Warner Ross? Oh, that could be Time Warner right there. Ross, the guy with the white hair next to Mike Wallace. Let me show you something else just for clarification, because there's another thing here. If you look at this picture, yeah, 1989. So this is young Donald Trump, 1989. All the way in the back, there's Mike Wallace again. There's Ghislaine's dad. But all the way in the back is a picture of that looks like Ghislaine Maxwell back then. So, oh, boy. And then let me read this. The man in the middle with the glasses is Senator John Tower, who was involved in Maxwell's KGB Mossad Promise software scandal. Oh, boy. Technology theft for Soviet aims and possibly his Soviet sex ring, allegedly. It appears Jeffrey Epstein, Madam Ghislaine Maxwell, Robert's daughter, is situated between Wallace and Robert Maxwell, perched on the ledge in the background. Yeah, that looks like a picture of her there, back there. But that's how deep these relationships are. So Donald Trump, this is what I'm saying. We all know that Ghislaine Maxwell's dad had a relationship, strong relationship with Israel. Someone goes far as to say was a part of Israeli intelligence as well. And Donald Trump had a relationship with Ghislaine Maxwell's father. So what does that tell you about Donald Trump? Donald Trump has been deeply embedded in Israel and their intelligence for a long time. He was captured a long time ago. A long time ago, ladies and gentlemen. So this whole framing where people are saying, well, Donald Trump has been captured by Israel this presidency. No. I think Trump has been fooling a lot of people. Donald Trump had this relationship a long time ago. This is 1989. For all we know, they could have been the ones that propped Donald Trump up in 2016. You never know. You never know. Let's go back here, because I do want to show you one more, and then I'm going to get into the Bronfman family, because the Bronfman family is one that hasn't been talked about in a while, but they also appear in these pictures. Daniel Tutt said, "This is sad. It makes me want to study Chomsky's biography to learn why he gave up at some deep moral level. Perhaps the system had just devoured him from within. I can't see how such a moral, resolute critic of the U.S. empire could participate in the Epstein circle. A major part of Noam's attraction as an intellectual was his core moral principles. Every undergraduate remembers what he said about Foucault and his relativist moralism. Pathetic, in my opinion." And this is one of the pictures that a lot of people are talking about. There's Noam Chomsky with Steve Bannon. Now, a couple years ago, there was a report that Noam Chomsky also had a relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. I covered that on the show. I covered that at a time where some on the left didn't want to talk about it because they considered Noam Chomsky to be their hero. But the news is the news. We still have to cover this information. But what this picture shows me here is that sometimes when we think that people are on the other side of the aisle, at the end of the day, when we look at the class perspective, they're really not. People with money roll with people that have money. And Steve Bannon couldn't be further from Noam Chomsky's beliefs. But they have class in common. And you see this here? So people that saw this, a lot of people are melting down about this picture. Sailor said just two guys manufacturing consent. Yeah, I think this one hurt a lot of people. But now we're starting to see, and again, that was released also by the House Oversight Committee, as you can see here at the bottom right-hand corner. And now we need to get to the Bronfmans, because this is another one, and shout out to Gen Z girl, Gen X girl for posting this. The Bronfman family is very suspect. The Bronfman family, very problematic, and they are also entangled in this. One figure that is in both the Epstein and the NXIVM's trafficking circle is the Virgin Group owner, Sir Richard Branson. He was knighted in 2000. You know who else is in both circles? The wealthy Bronfman family. I think it's time to release my research on the Bronfmans tomorrow. So she's going to release more research about it, but I have an article to show you about them as well. Here is Richard Branson, owner of Virgin, very, very loaded, wealthy guy. Interestingly enough, for those who are not aware, Richard Branson dropped out of high school and became very, very wealthy. This is the Bronfman family, this guy right here. And there's Jeffrey Epstein. And then I'll just show you the picture this way so you can see it. So again, Sir Richard Branson with Sarah Bronfman at the NXIVM retreat. And there they are there. So what's the problem with the Bronfman family? The heiress and the cult. To family friends, Seagram heiress Sarah and Claire Bronfman are victims of a frightening secretive cult called NXIVM, which has swallowed as much as 150 million of their fortune. But the organization's leader, Keith Raniere, seems also to have tapped into a complex emotional rift between the sisters and their father, billionaire philanthropist Edgar Bronfman Sr. So these are the heirs of Seagram. You guys know like Seagram's, gin, and all that type of stuff. That's the Bronfman family. They're very wealthy, and they are also powerful. The Bronfman family are also very much involved in pro-Israel organizations. They support the Zionist movement. Everybody's starting to see a connection here between all these people. So let's go into this a little bit here. Just want to jump forward right about here. The daughters of the billionaire philanthropist and former Seagram chairman, Edgar Bronfman Sr., and half-sisters Edgar Jr., the chairman of Warner Music Group, Sarah and Claire, were not simply heirs to a global empire built by their grandfather, Samuel Bronfman. As they would describe themselves, they were also important, wealthy entrepreneurs and philanthropists in their own right, women who bankrolled a web of investments and humanitarian foundations based in the Albany region where they lived. Let's go on here. This is interesting. The alleged threat would have been disturbing if it occurred. But among the many allegations that have been made about Sarah and Claire Bronfman in recent months was the charge that Claire was lying about the extortion letter. Made in hundreds of pages of court documents, they began to leak out to the press this spring. They have stunned friends of the Bronfman family. Many knew that Edgar Bronfman's daughters were involved in a secretive organization called NXIVM, pronounced Nexium, a group that he himself had openly referred to as a cult, but only a few were aware of what the court documents were reveal: the massive gutting by the Bronfman daughters of their family trust funds to help finance NXIVM, and the alleged investment schemes of its leader, a 50-year-old man by the name of Keith Raniere. The amount, reportedly $100 million, was staggering and made for eye-popping headlines. But according to legal filings and public documents in the last 6 years, as much as $150 million was taken out of the Bronfman's trust and bank accounts, including $66 million allegedly used to cover Raniere's failed bets in the commodities market, $30 million to buy real estate in LA and around Albany, $11 million for a 22-seat, 2-engine Canadair CL600 jet, and millions more to support a barrage of lawsuits across the country against NXIVM's enemies. Much of it was spent, according to court filings, as Sarah and Claire Bronfman allegedly worked to conceal the extent of their spending from their 81-year-old father and the Bronfman family trust. So the daughters, the Bronfman daughters, at one point, they were involved in this organization that was deemed as a cult. And so what they did, this was earlier that spring in 2009, they said that they had this extortion letter. Let me break this down from the top here. 31-year-old heiress to multi-billionaire dollar Seagram liquor fortune, would describe to a New York court the extortion letter that was sent to her on April 24th, 2009, intended for her 33-year-old sister, Sarah, as well. It was signed by several women, including the sister's financial planner, a masseuse, hairstylist, demanded that they be paid $2.1 million by midnight. Claire said in sworn declaration, or else they would go to the press with information they deem harmful to my sister and I. What that information was, the letter didn't say, but Claire viewed the threat as alarming. So they were basically being blackmailed, is what they claimed. This family, let me go on a little bit more here, is the perfect example of a family that is known as philanthropists. And people have to be careful about this philanthropy term, right? So yeah, they donate money to charities. Whoop-de-doo. You're rich, you should, right? But sometimes there are people who will hide behind that word philanthropist because it makes them seem like they're a good person. The Bronfman family are very pro-Zionist. The Bronfman family, again, very rich people. They have a lot of power, and they also are connected to Jeffrey Epstein. So it's just, what's the commonality that you notice, ladies and gentlemen? The commonality with the Bronfman family, Richard Branson, Donald Trump, Bill Gates, these are all wealthy people, many of them billionaires, who have a lot of power because of their money and because of the control that they have, who could get away with doing what they wanted to do on that island, allegedly, because of the money, because of the power that they have. Even this part here about the Bronfman family, it says darker questions were being raised about how the Bronfman's money was being used. Indeed, today, in multiple lawsuits involving the Bronfman sisters, there are serious allegations being lobbied, not just a possible blackmail or perjury, but also of other potential illegal activities, including theft and conspiracy of forged documents. So if the daughters were being blackmailed, what information could be used against them that would be considered a successful blackmail? What did they know about the Bronfman family that could hurt them? So you go back to these pictures. I mean, it's so, I don't even know how to say this, you guys, but look at all of this. All of these people hang out together. Do we know whether or not their dad was involved in this activity? No, we don't. But maybe he was. Maybe he allegedly was. So I'm going to put a stop to this right now because I'm hearing a number of people say, Oh, well, those people said they knew him, but they didn't do anything wrong. All of them? You mean to tell me all of these men that knew Jeffrey Epstein and were friends with him didn't do anything wrong? None of them. Think about that for just a second. Let that sink in. These are powerful people. Donald Trump, and like I said, Donald Trump is friends with all these people. He was there, they were there, and that is why he did not want you to get these Epstein files. Him, Bill, Will, the other Bill, Richard Branson, the Bronfman family. That's why he didn't want you to see these Epstein files, because he's in them and his friends are in them. Just keep in line again, these are just the pictures that have been released. There's 95,000 photos. And of course, Representative Garcia said they can't even release some of them because they're so disturbing. So disturbing. And then there's this issue here with Steve Bannon, Mr. Not the whole family values party guy. Why was he trying to rehabilitate Jeffrey Epstein's reputation? Why? So this is the right thing to do. The Democratic Party, like the Democratic Party right now doing this is the right thing to do. And I appreciate, again, the fact that they're not just showing, Republicans, they're also showing people who were Democrats as well. This is the right thing to do, and people should support that. And all I can say is stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen, because this is just the new leak now. More pictures will be released. So this basically puts pressure on Donald Trump. And he's going to have to respond to this in some way, shape, or form. He's trying to stir up so much chaos so that you can overlook these Epstein files. Don't fall for it. The reckoning is coming. Hey guys, this was a Sabby clip. If you like what you saw, hit that like button and subscribe.